Sir, can you please explain what is physical culture?
In yoga, we use the term physical culture for all those aspects of physical things in life which could contribute to our well-being. And these are the physical activity, which is generally in the form of asanas and pranayamas. But it also includes food, not only what we eat as food, but also what we avoid taking, because just as it is important to eat what is good for us, it is also important not to put into the body what may be harmful for the body. And like say smoking, drinking, avoiding those things is also a part of physical culture. And then it also includes sleep, appropriate sleep. So in all these, in yoga, it is important that not only we do them properly and methodically, but also with the right attitude and in right measure. So in physical activity, it may be in the form of asanas and pranayamas, but then what is also important is how much and how do we do it. So both how much of it in moderation, so that we have time for the rest of the activities during the day, and how treating it as something which we are doing, of course, to keep healthy, but then also keeping in mind why we want to be healthy. We want to be healthy so that the bodily instrument that we have been given for action in the world is kept in good shape, so that we can implement the true purpose of life. We can actually do what we have come to the world for, act as a good, efficient instrument of the divine. So we keep that in mind while doing these physical activities. Done with this attitude, even jogging or cycling could become a part of yoga. Without this attitude, even asanas will just remain asanas, they'll not become yogasanas. So how we do something is also important. Another important aspect of physical culture is eating. Again, what we eat, how much we eat, and how we eat. All these are important. So, of course, we should, at the time of selecting food, select what is healthy for us, and then eat it in just the right amount, neither too much nor too little, and then eat it again with the right attitude. As in case of physical activity, we eat so that our bodily instrument is in good shape, and it can be used for the purpose for which we are actually here. And the same applies to sleep. When we sleep, how long we sleep, and how we sleep. All these are important. So one should sleep early and get up early. How long we sleep depends upon our sleep requirements. That should be properly met. We should sleep neither less than that nor too much. And how do we know how much our need for sleep is? We can find it out in a rather roundabout way only. And that is, the roundabout way is that after sleeping a certain duration every day, if we find that we feel fully rested, we are active throughout the day, then we are getting the right amount of sleep. On the other hand, if we have symptoms of sleep deprivation, that is inadequate sleep, then it means that we should increase the duration a little. Now, what are the symptoms of sleep deprivation? Of course, the obvious one would be that we'll feel sleepy during the day. But apart from that, one could feel irritable, get angry easily, or find it difficult to concentrate on mental work. The blood pressure may go up. And of course, if sleep deprivation continues for weeks and months, then it also depresses the immunity, which in turn could lead to frequent attacks of common cold and such common infections. So this is about sleep. So how much? But then, what is the normal duration? Normally the duration of sleep which most people need is between 6 and 8 hours. But there are people who can manage with just 4 hours, and there are also people who may need at least 9 hours. But the average is 6 to 8 hours. So that's why we don't know exactly how much an individual needs. and we can find it out only in this roundabout way. If the person feels well rested, then that should be enough. Then how to sleep. Again, as in case of the physical activity and diet, at the time of sleeping, one should say a prayer and remind oneself that I'm sleeping because my body is so constituted that I do need this periodic rest. So let my body get recharged during the night so that tomorrow I'm ready for what I'm actually meant to do in the world. So let me be fit for that so that I can be a good instrument of the divine once again tomorrow. So this is the attitude with which one should sleep. In the morning, sometimes even after one is fully rested, sometimes one finds it difficult to get out of bed. On that, again, the mother was once asked this question: why is it so difficult to get out of bed in the morning? To which she gave a very good answer. First, she said, I don't understand this question. If you are awake, then what is difficult about getting up? So she couldn't understand it because she had herself probably never experienced this type of laziness. So if one thinks about it, she was very right, because if one is awake, fully rested, then prolonging the stay in bed is only a type of laziness. There's no difficulty about getting up, as the mother said, unless one is paralyzed. So sometimes I say that one can split this process of getting up into 3 simple steps: 1, 2, 3. So when you feel in the morning while lying down in the bed that I have slept enough and I'm fully rested, I'm ready to get up, then at 1, sit up in the bed, 2, start praying, and 3, get down from the bed. So as simple as 1, 2, 3. So these are the 3 main things in physical culture: physical activity, diet, and sleep.
Sir, what is mindful eating?
Mindful eating is, again, a part of how we eat. We should eat with full awareness, the way we do asanas or anything in everyday life. In fact, doing everything with full awareness, with full consciousness, is also a part of yoga. It not only helps us stay healthy, it also helps prevent many accidents. Most of the accidents are not really accidental. They happen when our mind was not there in what we were doing. Say when we are walking on the road and we stumble on a stone and fall, it's because we were not fully mindful and we did not see the stone because our mind was not in what we were doing. The mind was somewhere else. So doing everything with full awareness, be it physical activity, be it eating. So eating should also be with full awareness. If we do that, we'll relish the food more, and it seems we'll also digest the food better. We relish it more, and if we relish it more, we'll not eat out of greed. Because if you really come to think of it, if suppose we are eating something which we really like, then what you really enjoy is the first morsel the most. After that, sometimes when you're not mindful, you are just eating quickly, hurriedly, and out of greed, out of a general sort of a feeling that I like this, so let me eat as much as I can and as quickly as I can, but you're not really relishing it. On the other hand, if one eats mindfully, then when you put this thing which you like in your mouth and chew it mindfully, drive all other thoughts out of your mind and just relish this taste with a sense of gratitude, then you find that you will not really need too much of it. A small quantity will be enough to give you full satisfaction. You feel fully satisfied. Apart from this, of course, this mindful eating with full awareness, can be further reinforced by a little prayer at the beginning of eating, at the end of eating. Everything that we do, in fact, should start with a prayer and end with a prayer. Why not during the work? Because during the work, if you get fully absorbed in the work so much so that you even forget to say a formal prayer, that is quite okay. In fact, then work itself becomes a prayer. But at the beginning of everything that we do, a prayer is good, and at the beginning of eating, the prayer could consist of gratitude. Gratitude not only for getting the food, but also for the capacity to eat and digest the food. Because there are so many people who have food available, but they can't eat. They have to be fed through a tube or something like that. You must have seen in the hospitals. So the fact that we can eat is itself also a blessing. So thanking the divine for the food, for the capacity to be able to eat and to digest the food, and then reminding ourselves that let me eat for need, not for greed. Let me eat for health, not for taste. So that this food gives me uh, a body which can be a proper instrument for putting into action the divine will, for being a good instrument of the divine. So one can view the food as something which is a source of energy and that material which the body needs for sustaining itself and for staying in good health. And one can thank the divine for creating this cycle which makes it possible, because ultimately all this energy is coming from the sunlight, and the divine has created these plants which are able to trap this energy and use the uh, waste gas that we produce, that is carbon dioxide, along with the sunlight to produce the food that we eat. So and then we are consuming this food from plants and doing something just the opposite, breaking it down to get the energy and releasing carbon dioxide. So it's a sort of a cycle that the divine has established, uh, and we should be grateful for that. If we eat it in that sense, with this type of thoughts in our mind, thoughts of gratitude, thoughts of why we are eating, why we are selecting the food the way we are eating, and the fact that we are participating in a huge recycling process which the divine has created, the Mahayagya of the divine, while eating. So if we eat with that sort of awareness and avoid other thoughts while eating, then the food would have served its purpose properly, and eating also becomes a part of yoga.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Arunima.